Hey everyone, and welcome to the Best of 3 Call of Duty Esports podcast. I'm your host, Josh. SalvationsElite to my right is Bash_Bo3 Sam. And to our farthest right, per usual, is none other than Rex Shady Nero. And guys, we got an interesting one today, man. Not as much news this week, but we are talking about the most impactful players, the best players on every team in the CDL. And of course, we have some matches to talk about this weekend for the final online league matches before the first LAN of the year.
Let's go.
Let's go, baby. Before we get to any of that, guys, I've got to ask, what's going on?
Well, Josh, I am feeling like a fan that's it's acting as a helicopter blade spinning around, but you know that plastic covering, it just hinders flight.
Oh, it does.
And you can't maneuver as well as you'd like to, but you're getting a lot of cool air coming in and hitting you. So what can you complain about, really?
Hey, man, Sam, how you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah. Have you got that cover off you?
I don't know.
Okay. Still
Maybe
working
not
on
yet.
it.
No.
That's fair.
No.
There's a lot of covers around there.
There's a lot of covers.
But man, we got a ton to talk about today. Obviously, another really interesting weekend of Call of Duty. We'll be breaking that down as well during our predictions and talk about all the teams in the CDL today. It's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, speaking of like that New York match, got a little nervous over there, Rex, feeling the tingles a little bit. Yeah, I bet. But we have a lot to talk about. But obviously, you can drop a review on Apple Podcasts. You can listen on Spotify. You can watch on YouTube. You can drop a comment on YouTube. And, you know, we appreciate that a lot. And oftentimes, we read reviews on Apple Podcasts. Unfortunately, there haven't been as many reviews lately the past week or two. So drop those reviews because we want to read them, but there hasn't been any new ones. So today, Sam, what do you got for us?
We've got a throwback, boys and girls.
Oh, no.
I'm going to read the first review that was ever dropped.
What was the date on the review?
It just says a year ago. So there's no
that's
like...
more than that. It would have been like December of 2020.
Yeah, unfortunately, they don't get
2019. December of 2019. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, right after Modern Warfare came out.
So I try like this is a real this was our actual
first review that we got on the show.
So here we go. Ho humming. What is this ? 1 star. I'm not joking here. I've been trying to find anything CoD related that isn't just a bunch of guys sucking off the Huntsman.
What?
I've seen them.
You came to the wrong place.
I've seen them get bodied by New York, Minnesota, Florida, and London. If you guys are just fanboys having a good time, then rock out. But if this is trying to be a real informative show, then you guys have a long way to go. Also, there is a guy whose audio is absolutely terrible. I can't say his name because I can't hear him, so I don't know. That was probably me. But wow, what a way to start the podcast.
That was literally our first episode that came out.
It was.
And I had like we were just kind of experimenting, like, all right, what's this gonna look like? How are we gonna do the audio? Yeah. We didn't have actual like audio interface yet or a second microphone.
We said one.
So we were using one mic, and that's why Sam's audio, because he does whisper over there. You know how that goes, boys.
I do apologize.
And so literally, like, there was so many things. The OPTIC thing, though, I don't even know what happened. I remember that review, and I was like, did we even like talk about OPTIC in this video?
Yeah, it was weird.
I don't remember us even talking about it, but yeah.
I'm curious. Like, I don't think any of us have ever been like super OPTIC fanboys even.
I mean, at that time we were joking about like horny. Well, maybe that was before horny for me, but like
no,
Sam, we were
definitely
all like,
before.
you know,
for sure.
I mean, obviously, you know, Sam has a little, is horny for me.
I am, but you know, I think we've been pretty fair.
Generally, we try to be fair around here if you're new to the show. So who knows? But again, you can drop a review on Apple Podcasts. Normally, we only read the 5-star ones, you know. So let's not encourage no 1 stars around here. All right, but we do appreciate that a lot, boys, and dropping your loving, kind reviews on Apple Podcasts.
Absolutely.
And last week's was a banger from Snuffleupagus. So
it was.
We'll see. But boys, again, like I said, it's gonna be a fun episode. We do have a lot to talk about, obviously. Real quick, a little update on draft buff and things like that. You know, I'm back inside the top. I was like, for a minute there, I was really struggling in the draft royales. And then one week I forgot to set my lineup, and that really screwed me. Yep. And so I'm coming back. I'm in the top 200 again, and I'm coming for throats. By the end of champs, I'm going to be top 50. Mark my words, after being like 600th, like around stage 2. So we are climbing the leaderboards again, and I'm gonna fly. Shout out to Seth Nav, finished top 5 this week in the out of like 2,000 or whatever people. So
I think he's now like top 100 too. I think overall, I think
that's pretty sick.
Top 150 maybe.
So Hey, you know.
Hey,
You know.
if you listen,
Big things you love to see.
hope he does.
But yeah, I finished like 150th or something this week, but pretty good.
I'm bad.
But yeah, we'll see. All
Oh,
right, there's
sick.
my little flex of the day. All right, boys, let's get
Flex.
right into news of the week. We got a lot to talk about. Let's go.
The Call of Duty News of the Week.
Alrighty. So, like I mentioned earlier, this is probably 100% guaranteed the slowest news
Oh, for
week
sure.
of the whole year.
Yes.
Well, until tomorrow, then.
Oh, true, of course.
Until
Tomorrow
tomorrow.
around this podcast goes live around 5.
We'll have like 5
so
nukes
around like
dropped.
3:30 there will be a breaking
Yes.
news.
Mhm.
So
Every
you know
time.
how that goes, guys. There's about like a just over 12 hour or what, a 15-hour gap between we recording and when we go live, just because it's a long podcast. You gotta get out, and we're not recording it live, so you know how it goes. But anyway, not too much to go off of this week. Obviously, the biggest things was the LAN announcement officially went live.
Yes.
They threw out the little teaser, they announced it, the dates and everything, and it's going to be a good time.
I can't believe it's here.
We're finally gonna get it, and seeing all the clips of all the players getting up and screaming and like
Mhm.
getting pumped. Like I was like, "Yo, I'm so hyped!"
I know.
Oh my goodness.
I don't want the pros to go easy either. I want like first land back. Let's get each
Amen.
other's
This ain't
faces.
no Logan Paul Mayweather
Let's-
fight. You know, we want a knockout.
Let's do Nate Shot Aches pushes. Oh,
and just a
man.
straight up
I
KO.
want some
Oh.
monitors falling over.
Oh, for sure.
Where's Doug when you need him?
Yeah.
Amen.
Punching the monitors.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I was reffing the match like 2 matches down from when that happened.
I think you told me this.
Yeah. And I was like, I looked over and someone was screaming, and then there was a monitor on the ground. And I'm like, what just happened? And it was Sensor who
Doug
punched a
Martin,
monitor.
baby.
But you know, hey, it happens to the best of us. I mean, I can't say I've never gotten mad.
Oh, absolutely.
Although I can't say I've never punched a monitor.
Yeah.
But you know, hey.
Yeah. Too expensive.
So obviously the LAN announcement is going to be exciting. Of course, there are no fans at Stage 4 and Stage 5. Champs still unconfirmed whether or not there will be
So,
fans. But
Stage
we'll see.
5, like the regular season matches, that's still going to be on LAN then.
Yes, online. You mean?
Online.
Yeah.
It's going to be online.
Yes.
Right.
So that's unfortunate, but you know, hey, I think that probably this week was a little bit lower viewership for the CDL as a whole.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine that probably has something to do with it, where it's like people are tired of online. They know we're getting to LAN, time to get there.
Yeah.
I think like the online aspect's really wearing on people right
yeah.
now.
Well, I also think the commercials are wearing on people.
Well, yeah, we talked about that last week too, and it's still the exact same. I mean, my word, it is.
I mean,
insane.
I hope LAN rectifies that situation.
it's not. Trust
because
me.
seriously,
Trust me.
these commercials are hurting viewership. There's no doubt in my mind.
Well, no,
There's
again, LAN's worse
too
because
much.
you can't. There's only one stage. Like that's the thing. That's why it makes no sense.
At least
But,
do things
anyway.
with the crowd, or like anything.
I
Like,
know.
Well, yeah, that's
I
the
mean,
problem.
just
There's
like
also no crowd, so it's just gonna be terrible.
commercials are too much. They're too much.
One of the greatest memes was the commercial where the girl's in the dentist chair,
Yeah.
and the meme was just like, "Just stop, please." Just please shut up.
Dude, it's so bad. It's actually torture.
Like,
And I will.
you
I
think-
swear. S&Ds to controls, like they have that little was supposed to be like a 5-minute
Yeah,
break.
game 2 to game 3.
I swear it goes like half an hour that this
It's
break
weird.
lasts.
Well, no, because that's how it works. Is that I think normally after game 2, so on LAN environments,
Yes.
after game 2, there's actually like a bathroom break where it's
Yeah.
an official bathroom break for players, and that's generally where Formal would walk out the building and start smoking. So
right. I know, but just the break is it's so long. Like
Yeah,
have
I know.
something filler.
Well,
have a filler.
That's probably what's going on here. Is that
Yeah.
they're all walking down to the basement level
Oh,
of their
for
buildings
sure.
to go light one.
Absolutely.
And I said this in the last pod, but I'm gonna say it again. I think we might need to move to 2 streams and have 2 matches going on at similar
Yeah.
times.
YouTube would
'Cause
die before they do that.
You need to be able to just like go somewhere else.
Oh, I
with-
know. It'd be so much better. It'd be so much better. I agree. I think a lot of people are resorting to just watching it afterwards.
Mhm.
Like
I
legitimately.
think that's happening a lot too, because if you look at the viewership on like these new stages, it's like upwards of like 500,000.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like the clicks are still pretty good in the long term,
yeah.
but it's like live, there's like
Mhm.
15,000,
Yeah.
25,000, 35,000 people watching some of
Yeah.
the not
Well, I'm not
optic.
gonna lie. Sometimes
matches.
it's hard to watch live. Like I'll watch it and it's like it's just getting to be too many commercials. Like I just
mean,
can't
yeah. No, for
keep
sure.
in
I was
it. I'm
just
like,
gonna
I'm just gonna
say-
watch this later and fast forward.
I'm for sure one of the people that, but the majority of the time I'm watching after it takes place. It's just the way it is, and so
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, I mean, there's a lot of pros to
There's
skipping.
a lot of pros with skipping the commercials, but then also like S&D, skipping between each round even too.
Oh,
where
for
it's
sure.
like
Like
the
20 seconds. You can say like 20, 30 seconds by just going two.
So it's like you can kind of get more efficient, but at the same time though, I would much rather
the hype of watching live is way more
I'd
fun.
much rather have the hype of
like
live.
the live tweeting too, like being able to like live tweet watching. That's like the fun of it too.
I love that.
Yeah, that's typically my go-to. Like when there is a commercial, I go to Twitter, see what people are saying.
Yeah, I think that's part of why Twitter pops.
Yeah,
like,
it's great.
Like COD Twitter is so popping is because of the commercials.
Absolutely.
Honestly, so yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Who knows? With either way, I'm definitely there's absolutely hype for it, and yeah, so we'll see. It's gonna be fun, man. The only other newsy thing really this week was about Asim and the potential troubles that he's been having with getting into the United States.
Yeah.
Based off what he's been saying, there should be no problems for LAN.
Yeah.
He said
by
soon,
the major,
by the major in 2 weeks here. Sounds like he should be good, but you never know with government stuff like this. You know,
it is crazy.
You never
like
know.
how many players have had like.
COVID just threw the big old curveball.
Yeah,
man.
like going back a couple of years too. It's like, man, that sucks. That visa is like such a hard issue for these players. Like, man,
for real though, it's actually crazy.
Yeah,
yeah.
That would be weird though. Asim not being at the major.
Well, I mean, that would just be like a crime because, like,
for sure.
This NYSL team's amazing. It's like, I guess we don't get to have Asim, and Asim is one of their like star leader players too.
And they're winning when he's like pinging crazy amount, right?
That'd be so awkward.
Yeah. He said he's like at such a disadvantage right now. So, man,
that'd be so crazy.
No,
they'd have to bring in Diamond, and then like
that would be kind of weird too.
They're so screwed because then Mac has to go back to sub, and Diamond's there. It would be that'd be so tough.
That would be screwy.
But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be wild. So besides that, not too much else news. I mean, there was the Challengers Cup 16 this weekend. Yep. Pretty straightforward NA side of things. The Hacker Squad won actually, which was Mohawk and Gunsy's team, Cryptic and Scrappy. The second place team was Dave Patey came back and was playing Royalty, Diamond Con, Exotic Squad, so shout out to them. And then The System, Decimate, Fellow, Zed, and Zinx were playing together there. So a pretty solid overall result for them. I didn't catch too much of it this weekend, unfortunately, because I was out of town yesterday. So I had to catch up just on the COD matches themselves last night. But overall, definitely an interesting one for sure.
Then the last Elite weekend or week was June 1st and 2nd. So I don't know if it's happening right now, but I wasn't seeing any updates honestly from the CDC Twitter or anything.
For sure. Yeah, we got to be going through that too. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks here. I mean, we got 2 weeks and we got the bye and then this 4th of July weekend and all that stuff. So it's going to be a weird like few week stretch here I think for COD news, but we'll see. I'm definitely looking forward to it. So I guess with that said, we're going to spend a lot of time today talking about the most impactful players on each team. I think it's going to be a pretty good combo because I was looking through it earlier. It's going to be tough. So without further ado, let's get right into this one. I don't know what drop to play here. So pick a number 1 through 12.
11.
All righty. I don't know. It doesn't really make much sense. But okay.
Sure.
Fire sale. Totally. That makes so much sense.
That's amazing.
I probably should have prepared something for that, but we'll take it where it's at. So
we love the random drops.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. So again, what we're going to go through is each team in the CDL and just talk about the most impactful player on each team. And, you can interpret it as the best player, the most valuable player. Overall, I think impactful is probably the best word we're going for. So at the end of the day, I guess, Rex, pick a team. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with FaZe.
Okay, start right at the top then, huh? It gets interesting off the rip. I think one thing that I noticed when I was looking at this was like with the best teams, it's kind of a hard conversation.
It is.
Because I mean, like you can say, all right, who's the best player? And like maybe someone would say Simp, someone would say a Beezy, someone else would say Selim or Arceus or whatever.
Yeah.
But all right. In your mind,
I mean, there's a few
the most
arguments.
Impactful player?
There's obviously going to be arguments made for, I think, each one of these people and how they're impacting the team. And each of them are doing exactly what they need to be doing. So you could have an argument like they're all equally impacting how they should be. I feel like in the grand scheme of things, I would put I'm going to say Simp just because, I mean, he has the ability to, he always makes the right plays. And then when he doesn't make the right plays, he has the skill, the gun skill to just get himself out of it and still succeed through it. I mean, if we look at that raid, was it Control?
Oh my word!
Where he went like on
freaking insane. Yeah,
the way he set it up, and so he got that first kill, and maybe this did not make any sense, but then they threw a nade, and he slid, acting like he's going to that top window on raid.
Yeah,
baits it, goes back, kills TJ, and then goes to the window, gets Kenny off the top of the statue. And then he got 5 kills.
Yeah, it was a 5 spree.
He's team wiped +1. Only Simp. He had a 9 kill spree, died, and then got a 7 kill spree the next one.
That was one of the craziest sequences. I was so surprised that Merc and Maven
is 99.
I was surprised Merc and Maven didn't get more hyped. They were like, "Oh, a 5, like who does that?" Like I just thought like they just didn't get hyped enough for how crazy that was.
It was insane.
Side note on that, this will be a later discussion. I think Merc and Maven are falling off a little bit as a duo.
Ooh,
okay, we were talking about that a little bit.
I know the whole hot topic here.
I'm sorry.
Convo.
I'm sorry. This will be another thing, but I think their synergy is falling apart.
Falling apart.
I've been saying this for a long time.
If you listen to like their most recent like castings, they keep like talking over each other, then like stutter and like stop. And then like,
I'm wondering if there's a delay issue or like a tech side of things, something behind it.
I only noticed it on their casting. So like if that's the problem, I apologize profusely for like calling you guys out.
I would imagine they'll be way better when you get back to LAN again.
Oh, for sure.
Just that like in person, they have very good. I mean, Maven has the most stage presence. You know, like he's great with that.
And I'm not calling them bad casters. I'm saying their duo ship.
I mean, they were like unbelievable.
Yes.
And now they're like, maybe it's just the slightest step below.
We could see something different with LAN, because I think LAN even affects the casters.
For sure.
Like the same as so like when we hit the LAN, you're going to have a Maven be way more amped up and hype because the crowd is being amped up and hype about it, which
hopefully
further accelerates that hype.
100%,
whereas maybe with Miles and Chance, how we like them so much now, is because
they're better at bringing in consistent energy.
Well, like they're very creative. They have a consistent energy.
Well, yeah, Miles the GOAT.
But like, the like hype moments they have, but I think Maven and Merc have the ability to really turn those hype moments into something special when they do happen.
Yeah.
But when they're on LAN is when you really see that shine.
So who's the most valuable of the casters? Who's the most impactful caster?
Most impactful of the casters, I would still say Miles and Chance. But we'll see what happens on LAN. Merc and Maven could definitely make a run. So
yeah. I mean, you know, I would say Study's kind of an underdog. Got to watch. You know, I mean, he can make a run. You know, I agree. You know, we'll see what they can do, but it's gonna be tough, man.
And too many people talk crap, I think, about that duo too. They have progressively gotten better, and especially people going against Lando. I like Lando, honestly. Like, I think he does a decent job.
Big hands, Lando.
I think there's up and downs. Like they can do a better job of diversifying how they call. Like I think they're a little bit too predictable at times.
This is what it looks like.
But
yeah, I mean, there's
Lando's
still sort of the
like
fresh, you know, the new guys on the scene, sort of. But they progressively gotten better, and I still stand by Lando. It has the best interviews.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But anyways, Sam, you really hijacked that convo. Oh my goodness!
But to bring it back, I think confidently this is Simp.
Okay,
it's hard to deny that Simp is what do you say? Like he's
a glue. He's a glue for that team. It feels like,
but.
Well-rounded, balanced.
What I'm trying to say, like he is so different than any other player. Like he's just different. That's the word
he does
uses.
different stuff.
He does playmaker.
Yes,
he's just enjoyable to watch, honestly.
Yes. And so for that reason, I'm out. Just kidding.
Yeah, dude, I was like, come on, you're setting yourself up there.
Well, honestly, they could put a whole game just watching Simp, and I feel like that could be a really good thing just to watch Simp play.
I know,
because
I would love to.
He is just different in that way. Like the way he plays is different than everybody else, but it's so good. And you can like see what he's doing and trying to do and having it succeed. And it's always like these big brain things.
Yeah. I'm sure some people out there want to say Abisi. I mean, obviously, right? I mean, like the Abisi hype's been real the past, few months for sure. I mean, he's been incredible.
Yes.
Well, what about Cell? I think Cell's a clutch master.
That's the thing. Well, what about Arceus? I mean, come on, right?
No. Especially with his improvements from stage 1, 2 to 3 and 4, it's like
I mean, there's a reason why FaZe is kind of untouchable right now.
The reason I was so confident with Simp was just he is a different beast. We haven't seen a player like this in a while.
And we don't even get sniping this year, man. No sniping.
And think about Black Ops 4.
Bring
man.
sniping back. I can't even believe you brought that up because I'm just now tilted. Like
it is weird.
Yeah,
No
I think
sniping.
sniping could just elevate the whole thing so much more.
I know, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
man,
it
kills
sucks.
me.
Freaking
But-
Treyarch. But
Yeah.
no, yeah, I agree. I think I would probably say Simp as well. But you know, it's so hard not to acknowledge what aBeZy does with Simp when like those guys have so much to do with each other's success at all
Agreed.
times.
Agreed.
Not to mention how good the ARs are at setting up the SMGs and vice versa, and they're just so talented at doing that in both ways. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, not very many players are in a COD like this setting up a 5-piece. I mean, again, it's just the obvious example because it just happened yesterday.
You're right.
But like, yeah, I mean, the fact that like the timing, that play was so nuts, man.
Well, just the
so
way
nuts.
you saw him setting it up, like he just knows.
He knew that Celium was on top mansion, which spawns them close to him. Because Celium's top mansion, they're going to spawn in weight room, even though he's in art, which means that the timing is he kills, you know, whoever he killed first. So in about 4 seconds, he's going to be on ramp. So he jumps off, like, oh my word. Like, it's just
Wild.
insane. It's wild. But yeah, so I would still say Simp as well, but both. I mean, can you really go wrong with those guys? They're all
No.
incredibly impactful at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And obviously, aBeZy does so many things. I mean, I would say this year, I mean, aBeZy's been the more dynamic S&D player than Simp
Mhm.
on the season for sure. So,
Definitely.
but again, Simp's playing nerfed. He's not sniping. Like
I
that's what
know.
he half the times what he did. So it's just like crazy as a whole.
Honestly,
and,
like you forget
it gets
about
wild.
sniping was a thing, and it's like, wait,
It's actually
sniping was
crazy,
a
man.
huge deal. Like it is a huge part of
and
Call of
kind
Duty.
of OP at points.
Yeah.
I know. It's crazy.
Wow.
That's going to be fun to get back, hopefully, at least at some point
Ugh.
next year. Worst case scenario. But alrighty, Sam, pick the team next. Who you want to go to?
Let's go to New York.
Oh, you're just going to two of the top teams right
Let's
off the
do it.
rip a bit, I guess, here.
Let's
Oh,
do
my
it.
word. Okay.
I
Another
suppose
really,
we probably
really
should,
interesting
like,
one.
Space out the hard ones, but let's just do New York and then we can go from
Okay.
there.
All right. We'll see what happens. Rex, I mean, these are your boys.
Oh man,
I'll be very interested to see what you got to say about the most impactful player on the team. In your head, does impactful also correlate with best? With the New York subliners?
I think you have to think about what is the special sauce that's making that team win like they're winning. And so, like, I think with FaZe, you can look at Simp. He just seems to be that guy that without Simp, is FaZe as good? I mean, you could say about all the players, but
Right. I think
whatever.
Again, like, this is
without
kind of
Simp,
the-
something special
right.
is lost about FaZe if Simp's gone.
Like I
That's
said,
all I'm saying.
It's kind of like the same MVP conversation is what does a team lose if you replace that player with the league average player, whatever
Yes.
that is, you know, what does the
Right.
team lose?
And like, it's not necessarily like the best player, but just like they're the secret glue that just makes it all work together. So
Yeah.
Simp for FaZe with subliners, you got to say Clayster. You have to. I'm not going to say he's the one out there slaying everything out. That's Hydra. That's Asim. That's even Mac at times. It's not
My
Clayster.
word, Mac
But
had a
this
weekend.
team,
Crazy.
let's look at this team last year, which had Mac and then Asim on the ROKKR. None of them. Mac looked good, but not as good as he looks now. Asim was rough. He almost wasn't even on a team. Hydra's this new kid who clearly I think he has some struggles in S&D. And I think he very much relies on the comms and leadership that Clayster brings to the team. And Clay himself is a top 3 AR. So I think you can't deny that Clay is what really makes that subliners team special. Without Clay, this team, who knows how well they do anymore.
I too had Clay. Yeah, that's it. No.
Cool, man. All
yeah,
right. So
hey. Yeah. You go back and forth in my head. This is another weird one too.
it's a chicken and the egg situation,
It's
right?
weird because
Could they do what they do without Clay there? But could
Mhm.
Clay do what he's doing without them?
No, they
Mhm.
can't. But that's what makes it a good team. A good team is a team that relies on each other. So that's how you
Agreed.
know that this is a pretty good squad. But if you take Clayster out and let's say you put in Arcees, we can debate Arcees is probably the better AR.
Mhm.
That subliners team, how do we feel about them now? Me personally, not as confident if you replace them. But
Yeah.
let's say we take out, anybody else on subliners and replace them with someone of similar or even a little bit higher skill level, you assume the results might end up still remaining the same.
The hard part too is what really shot this team forward was Asim too. Like Asim,
Good argument for Asim.
Asim becoming who he was this year was so unexpected.
Yeah.
And then we just saw what he did for New York. And so I was honestly going between New York or Asim and Clay. Hydra is a good argument too.
There's an argument for Hydra. And after this weekend, you're like, man,
Well,
Matt
yes, Hydra
suddenly has an argument.
Yeah.
Hydra is great, but you could have put somebody else in. Like you put Simp in for Hydra, the team is going to be just as good. Like
Again, you have to do league average player.
League average, probably the better.
Why does that have to be league average? You put you can take any AR, put them in for Clayster, and that subliners team changes. Like not just roster, but like just the dynamic of everything of it changes.
I suppose, but there could be an argument where like for like R-Stays, they could rework themselves around R-Cities.
And then RCs has a better slang.
But I'm not confident.
Power.
I'm not as confident in that.
I'd be pretty freaking confident in that.
I'd be confident in replacing Hydra with someone of similar skill or higher and having that team probably still being great.
I was just going to say, one of the major things I looked at when making my list was who was the player that wasn't performing well when they were struggling? Like when they're losing matches or like losing or lost a match. And like you saw,
is that an argument for being impactful or against being impactful?
I think it's for impactful because it means when this player is not
unless they're losing a lot.
Yes. So maybe my approach doesn't hold up a ton, but maybe my approach is more
for good teams.
X factor, right?
Yeah.
But I think you saw it this weekend when versus Dallas. Clay wasn't as dominant, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean,
he still played good, but
he did. But
well, subliners as a whole, I mean, they had actually some legit excuses this weekend with Asim still having bad connection.
Yes.
Plus Hydra's sickness that is going around apparently. I mean, he didn't look good in those kill camps or in the camps, but
he did not look like passing out. He like wins the round. He just like sleeping. I'm like, oh, and it looked like
he was acting. He was like,
this guy's
almost
dead.
like it was planned. Yeah, I know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I can see what you're saying. I mean, at the same time though, it's like this team was good before, but then like you bring in Hydra and now suddenly they're like a title contender. And there is like this extra level of ascension that they needed to make that I could see the argument for. I would say it's either Hydra or Clay. But like that's the thing is Hydra is the perfect teammate to have with Clay like right now where, to bring him in. So I can see the argument for both. I'm down with going with Clay, but I think Hydra deserves quite a bit of legit consideration just because of how unbelievably unique and nasty he is around the map with his ability to slay and create map control. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Hydra didn't even happen without Clay. All right,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But like at the same time, it's like you need both of them, and that's kind of the argument there. So I know what you mean. I'm fine with a Clay answer for sure. That's totally valid. All right, let's go on to another team that's going to be pretty difficult, but in a different way. Let's go to Paris. A very interesting team for who's the most impactful on their roster. Obviously, they recently brought in Zaptius, and it gets interesting. So, who wants to begin?
I will discuss my thought process here.
The philosophy.
Yeah.
All right.
I was taking people. I was going. What is it called when you start negating people?
Eliminating.
Process of elimination.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to think of.
Fair.
So here's what I said. I said Aqua. He's usually been the consistent person, and they've lost and won when he's doing that. I don't think he's the impactful player here. Knocked him off. Classic Zaptius. That switch. Did you see much so far?
Right. Small sample size for Zap.
Small sample size for Zap. And so I wouldn't say Zap just because I haven't. Maybe it's unfair to say that with the small sample size.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't feel confident enough to say Zap.
Exactly.
I
so
feel that.
you're left with Scraps, and you're left with, I'm blanking.
Temp.
Isn't that terrible? Temp. Wow. I literally was like, there's a fourth player on this team.
So I'm assuming your impactful player is Temp.
I was like, oh
Yeah,
crap.
man. Yeah, your pack player must be Temp. How did you forget him?
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
I had Scraps. Wow. Isn't that just horrible? Like, what
That
are we
is really
doing?
funny. No, I mean they have, hey, it's fair.
Yeah. So because this was so
Okay.
difficult.
I had
with-
Scraps as well.
Yeah.
So I want to hear what you say.
I think Scraps in his career, he's always been the player. I would call him the X factor
For a lot of teams.
for a lot of teams he's been on. He hasn't had the most consistent performances. I don't think that's a secret.
Yeah. In the past year and a half.
But when he's going off for this Paris squad, and Paris needed, and I truly hope Zap can be this player where like Zap is like the strong slayer SMG, going off.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think Scrap has had to be that player when Paris wins. And I think he has
Yeah,
been
I agree.
at times. And so I believe looking at when they perform and when they're not, I think Scraps is that player that needs to go off. And it's unfortunate that this team is where it's at and struggling, because I feel like they're there. When you looked at their game versus OPTIC, they were close matches. The first hardpoint was like, wow, that's crazy. Then when OPTIC had to come back, 100 points or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're there, but they're just not, like, you cannot trust Paris to close out.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And so that was my reasoning. I'm not saying it's for sure Scraps, but it was just a difficult.
I mean, it's a tougher argument to make when the team's not consistently winning, because none of them have the strongest of arguments
Yes.
either way.
Mhm.
So I agree with you that like Scraps is kind of the guy when they're winning, he's generally playing incredibly well,
Mhm.
and his role is very diverse across all three game modes and
It
how
is.
he plays. In Search and Destroy, he's been really, really good.
Yeah.
Like when they win, he's playing great, and they've been playing S&D pretty well lately,
Mhm.
and I think it's been a big reason why. And so
Yeah,
I
I
agree
mean-
with you as a whole.
They did 3-1 OPTIC on the control raid.
Yeah, that was
Um,
crazy.
And Temp made some great plays
did.
in that control too. So like, I mean, I originally on mine, I did put Aqua, but what you guys are saying about Scraps kind of rings true. And then also Temp, I am now seeing more of this potential that Temp had that I guess maybe we weren't seeing as much on Thieves, and maybe it seems to be more valuable on Legion now. But I'm okay with Scraps. I thought Aqua, just because he seems to be the one person that can just do it and win his gunfights, do what he needs to be doing.
Well, you trust Aqua for sure.
Like he's of all the players I trust, Aqua was the one guy I'm like, I trust him to at least do what he has to be doing.
Yeah, I agree.
But I see the Scraps argument there too.
Yeah, I mean,
it's tough when, like, I guess again, there's so many different ways to view it, but I was
and
viewing
with
it
new rosters too.
exactly. Like, I was viewing it as Aqua has for sure been that way, but that hasn't changed their performance because
That's fair.
because Aqua has performed well. Like, they lose when he's doing everything still, and they win when he's doing everything.
Mhm.
That was kind of my thought
Yeah, I mean, I
process.
guess how I see it is generally with like a main AR, it's hard unless you're like the overly communicative, like a in-game leader guy like Clay or someone like that, to be as impactful as like a main SMG or something like that, just because of how you play generally.
Yeah.
And maybe that's that's an interesting argument to have as a whole. So I do like that a lot. So all right, let's move forward. Rex, choose a team. Who do you want to go to next?
Let's do Empire.
Alrighty,
Ooh.
Empire. At least I thought this was pretty obvious, right? This one is Shotzzy. I mean, he's been unreal.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like he's everywhere, and we've seen him improve consistently in S&D at this point. Across all game modes, he's frying. He makes big time plays. He finds the 2 pieces and the 3 pieces when they need him the most, and he's just been reliable since the past few months. He's been incredibly reliable. And you have nothing bad to say about Shotzi.
Well, here's the thing with Shotzi too, and I think this was mentioned on a previous whatever flank, however long ago. But like, it seems like he's hitting that point with he's so frustrated with the team that he's trying to do it all, and sometimes he's succeeding in just doing it all. But it also will hurt him at times as well. But he seems to be the only one who's just confident in what he's doing, and I can imagine he's incredibly frustrated at times.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. And like, especially like going from last year to this year. Last year, Shotzi was
how
just
dominant they all were.
Oh, absolutely. Then like this year, I think, especially even up until recently, like Shotzi hasn't been the same. But we've seen him now a couple games now, like, where he's like back to form.
Again, small sample size with Vivid though.
Yes,
this weekend was pretty positive for Empire and showing the potential that Vivid could have on this team. So
Vivid finally had a decent series.
So moving forward, who knows? Maybe Vivid can make a stamp on the roster. So
what's kind of unfortunate for Dallas is that like we're now just assuming Illy is not going to perform to what his potential is, right?
Yeah,
like
people have kind of readjusted their expectations.
Exactly, which is kind of weird. Shame. It's a shame. That's why, like,
not his game apparently. Like I was thinking about that. Like this seems like this just isn't going to be Illy's game. Although in S&D, Illy's one of their best S&D players.
Well, he made some clutch plays in those S&Ds this weekend.
He's for sure. He stays true to being an S&D kid. That's for sure. But maybe you need to go back and talk about Respawn again or something.
Yeah,
I know.
Hit the books again. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I had in parentheses Illy could be the most impactful player if he were to get
in another timeline.
But,
no, yeah, that's fair. Alrighty, let's talk. Let's go through another one here. Then let's go ROKKR. Then I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say about the ROKKR in this new roster, the ROKKR roster with Minnesota and with Major Maniac, of course.
So, do we think this is a lateral move, or where we at with ROKKR still on this?
I still think there's a little bit more upside now with the team. I mean, we saw like Major's playing pretty well in the respawns as a whole.
I mean, I don't remember, but they played against Seattle, and like, you would kind of hope it would kind of be a blowout to just give yourself hope with the ROKKR team, but it really was not.
They took them 3-1, but it was pretty close maps all the way through besides the S&Ds.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, 3-2 control, 250, 221 in the fourth hard point. And then S&D, ROKKR won at 6-2. So they did win their S&D.
I mean, yeah. I mean, since Major Maniacs
joined,
and
then they lost the first hard point.
Yeah, since Major Maniacs joins, they've played OPTIC, Legion, and Surge. It's like you wouldn't expect them to compete against OPTIC in their first series together. But then they did beat Legion, which is what they probably should be doing right now. And then they beat Surge. So at this point, they've done what they need to do.
Yes.
So upcoming will be the kind of the test for the ROKKR and what we really believe about them. So I guess we'll talk about them probably a little bit more later. But who's the most impactful player on this team for you?
I'm saying Standy.
Standy? Mm-hmm. I mean, he is kind of the guy, the utility player, the player across all three game modes. Again, usually with the impact, you're looking for consistency across all three game modes. You're looking for, the guys who are willing to do it all. And Standy definitely is that guy. So for me, I had Standy as well. And we know when you look at it versus Priesta versus Attach, Major Maniac, it's hard to say that across all three game modes, anyone's doing more than what Standy's doing right now.
I mean, where's their glue? What is it that is happening that's when they're getting their wins? Who is the guy? And it seems like Standy seems to be their hallmark guy for that.
Yeah, I agree. Sam?
Yeah.
Are you on the same page?
I kind of had a different approach.
Ooh, okay. I'm interested.
Yeah. So I'm
hooked.
Again, I think I'm looking at this slightly different where I would say mine are more X factor where when they are winning, someone is performing. And so maybe that's not the right way to look at it.
So you're going to say Priesta.
I had Attach.
Oh, interesting.
Priesta, I just haven't been very impressed with.
Priesta.
And Priested with.
Mm-hmm. Crickets.
Exactly. My thought process is, and I think this could be flawed, and I could just be completely wrong.
But Attach is, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting answer.
Standy for me is going to be their best player. For sure.
So he's the most impactful.
I think he's their best player.
Well, you could have the Hydra Clayster,
So this is an interesting conversation you're having here, Sam. You're having a combo on your own.
I think when ROKKR lose, I think Standy is still playing really well. I think when ROKKR is winning, I think Attach
I
is
agree with
playing
you.
really well. That
I
makes
agree
sense.
with
Well,
you.
how? What are your
Attach is the
thoughts
X
on?
factor.
What are your thoughts on? Like, yeah, we can. Okay,
And
depends
so,
if we're going
again-
impactful best, but like ROKKR have not looked great. So if you're saying Attach is that guy, to me, that doesn't make Attach look very good
No, and maybe
because
Attach
they
has
are
been
losing and they're not winning how you would think they should be.
exactly. And like my thing too is like
Winning. So Attach is playing worse most of the time than he's actually playing good.
yes. So when that is a weird process, I understand, but we saw Standy come in, they started winning a bunch, right? Then they started going back to the old ways of not performing very well. Standy was still in my mind, looking back at the stats, he was still performing, but I think
Yeah, he had a few pretty terrible ones,
Yes.
but yeah.
Yeah.
but I think it is attached, and so I guess what when I'm thinking of impactful, I'm thinking of who is the player that's going to impact them winning, and so I don't know. It could be a flawed way to look at it. I agree though. Sandy,
Yeah, I definitely
Sandy
see
is
your
the best
argument
player.
more as X factor
Yes.
versus like who on a consistent basis impacts the
Yes.
game the most,
Yeah.
which I think is
It
Standy
is
for this
Sandy.
team.
Yes.
So I can see what you're saying,
Yeah.
but like when you look at Respawn, like who's the guy who's hitting that early rotation and popping the 2-piece for the spawns? It's generally Standy. Who's the guy that's flying into the hardpoint first to break it? It's usually Standy.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who's making the clutch S&D first blood?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes Standy.
Yeah.
Like I think he's just very far and away the most impactful player for that team.
Yeah.
So Minnesota's an interesting one for sure.
It is.
All right, let's talk Seattle. Let's talk Seattle. Interested to see what you have to say here, boys. Who you got?
All right. I mean, I'll say it. I mean, I think Gunless, personally.
Okay.
I think, Pristini's been off and on at times. And I mean, lately just doesn't seem to like be clicking at all. Classic's new, and he's not fully part of that mold yet, I think. And then there's that argument for Octane, but it's still not seeing the impact with him. But Gunless, he sometimes does some, I think, special things that really helps the team out that maybe go unrecognized. But for me, it's Gunless. I think he's been actually playing really well.
Yeah. In my head, Gunless is more of the X factor.
Mm-hmm.
So you definitely said
I have
Gunless.
Gunless. I do have Gunless. Yeah, and for that very reason.
So true. When he
Yes.
plays well,
They're
they
really
win.
good. Yeah.
But he doesn't always play well.
No.
And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Octane's by far the most impactful player. He's the most consistent player. But like you could also argue that like when Pristini's dominating, it's important, obviously, but like they just haven't seen much success at all. And so who's the most consistently impactful player? It's gotta be Octane, right?
Yeah.
I mean, S&D, he's been very, very good this year. Just as a whole, cleaning up the messes and playing for
Man,
playing for kills and being
I
good.
don't know. I just don't see the glue there. Like I see it more with Gunless. I don't even know how to like put this, but just like in the overall scheme of things, Gunless seems to be your guy for that team, or he should be more of your guy.
In what way though? I mean, like, how does he impact the game more than like Octane would?
I think he makes good plays. I think he makes right plays. I think he's trying to do bigger and better things with the team that, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But like there's that, I don't know, that certain sort of like, I don't know, mental effort put forward. And with Octane, we're just getting Octane with Octane. Octane does what he's been doing for years and years and years, but we're still getting the same exact results.
Yeah.
And so I like if you were to replace a player on the team, I think if you're taking Gunless out, that team is hurt by that a lot. If you take Octane out, replace him with somebody, I think that team can still do something.
Then I don't know, man. I just see Octane as the guy who is always out there making the consistently big time play. Obviously, again, like there's a difference, and like he plays inside hills. I mean, like look at that Apocalypse hardpoint where like it was against LA Thieves. LA Thieves could not get him out of the hill. Was that against LA Thieves? Where like he was just playing inside that hill and dominating and making plays, and most of the time I see Octane as the playmaker for that squad, the guy who has his nose in the most action and is the most impactful on a consistent basis. Yeah, that was against LA Thieves. Sam?
Yeah, no, I think it's
I mean,
hard.
if we make that argument with Octane, what about Aqua and Paris Legion?
I don't think that is the same conversation, though.
Well, it's sort of like Scraps is like this inconsistent player, and then Aqua, he's been consistent every time. You can say the same thing with Octane. He's being consistent, but they're still not winning.
But I would say that Scraps has still been pretty good, and he just hasn't been as consistent. Like, he's been consistent in certain game modes, but he hasn't been as great, map in and match out. But I do agree that, like, I still think that Scraps makes the most impactful plays on a consistent basis for Paris for sure. So,
All right. I mean, I think, all right. I'll
fair.
live with it. But I think
All
Gunness
right.
does.
no, it's all good. It's all good. Let's do London next then, and talk about this squad now. Obviously, after their changes with Afro and Alex and the squad now. Where are you at with this team? What are your thoughts? Who impacts the game the most?
I think this was one of the hardest ones to do, honestly.
Yeah.
I agree. Not a big sample size,
No.
a new roster, and not a ton of success to go off of either yet. So it does make it pretty difficult. So who do you guys say? Sam, lead the way.
Well, right off the bat, I had Paul. I had Paul X.
Really? S&Ds, it's Paul.
Yeah. But then
I'm just not sure if it respawns as Paul.
I know. I'm still not sure about it. As I'm sitting here, Paul.
I mean, when it comes down to it just feels like Paul has that certain, ice about him that you just trust him more.
Right.
I think. Shawnee has a strong case. Shawnee, again, seems like he lives in the underground. Like, no one recognizes him.
He's very
but
consistent.
He's very consistent, and he plays really well.
Except in S&D.
And so, like, that makes it more difficult where it's like, oh, going like a 1v1 sort of situation. Like, I want Paul there.
Seems to always be Paul. That dude's
Mhm.
always
seems
the last
to always
alive.
be Paul as well.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the thing
it's a
too,
tough
is
call.
maybe part of the argument is Shawnee has been the most consistent. Shawnee has been the one who's there the whole time. So
yeah.
for some reason, not for some reason, but management sees him as the guy to build around. And so
Mhm.
do you use that as your argument for the most impactful player? I don't know. Again, I think I agree. Shawnee has been the most consistent, but in terms of X factor, impactful, I'm kind of taking that route to it. I do think Paul is that guy where he's gonna be the one that's gonna be making the big plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Paul's going to be your big play guy. Yeah.
at least I would have said that for sure, after last weekend. But this match against Toronto this weekend was interesting.
Mhm.
And in S&D, it's definitely Paul. And that's why I think this is really tough, because they don't have a player who's consistent across all three game modes yet. Paul probably is the most consistent, but like, he hasn't been by any means great in control or hard point on a consistent basis.
No.
I might lean Afro.
Really?
That's too early for me to say
It's
something
too
like
early
that.
to say Afro. That's why I'm saying, like,
And
it
they
might
got-
be Afro.
They got obliterated by Toronto, but was expected. But
The only player who made any sort of like big time play in that series was Afro in the respawns. He popped a few two pieces where you're like, oh wow,
what about
that was
Paul
insanely
in
impressive.
the S&D though?
I know, that was the thing.
It was
Paul
a
had the-
6'5" S&D, and Paul
he
was
had a
the only
1v3.
person. Paul was the only person who was positive on his team.
Yeah, Paul had that 1v3 on, it was like on A-Bomb on Moscow. That was really nice. And then went round 11. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why it's tough. But in the respawns, Afro's the only one that's making the big time plays around the map. And so I'm split between Paul and Afro. I'm going to answer Paul for the sake of it, but it could be either. They're really tough. Any other final words there with London?
No, I think it's one of the top two hardest to do.
Yeah,
So.
I think that's fair. So we got two teams left here, maybe three. Oh, we got three left. So let's go for the old OPTIC then, and then see what
OPTIC.
they got to say there.
Hmm.
Where you guys at with this one? I'm
I mean,
interested to see. Rex,
I mean, For me, like there might be people like wanting to say Envoy, but honestly, Envoy's been a bit lackluster for me for a while now. And I've been impressed with Scump lately, actually. I'm not saying he's making like hero plays,
In
but
S&D.
it seems like he's playing very much like a team player. He's setting his team up well. And he gets kills, and he usually does pretty well consistently. So my vote is Scump, but I also had Dashy as a second.
Yeah, Sam?
This was a hard one for me.
I'd imagine. I'm very interested to see what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
What was your thought process?
So yeah, oh gosh, I was kind of looking through players' performances again when they were losing versus when they're winning. I don't think it's formal.
No.
I don't think he's the most impactful player.
Although some might argue that after this whole
0.46
fiasco with the in-game comms, the Paris series. In Search and Destroy, though, he has made some impressive clutch plays as of late, and I've definitely that's like a pretty positive sign for OPTIC fans, is seeing Formal's improvement in S&D so far. I've been really, really enjoying watching it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I don't think there's another answer besides Envoy. Like at the end of the day, like though he hasn't performed consistently inside Respawns as a whole, at the end of the day, who impacts the map the most and is out making the plays, it's Envoy. Obviously, slaying-wise, it's been Dashy on the most consistent basis on the year, but inside control, it's definitely Envoy, for sure. S&D, you could divvy it up, and at say different points in the year, it's been either Scump or Envoy who's made the most impact. Sometimes, you see Dashy going off. Either way, though, Envoy, in control, Envoy's always in the spawn. He's always, how many times have we seen him finessing on basketball and playing, on those headies in the corners, influencing the spawns, calling that out. At the end of the day, Envoy makes those types of plays, and that's the impact that he has on the map on a consistent basis. And Hardpoint, I could see the argument for multiple players, and then maybe you could say Dashy because of how often he's been getting streaks this year and the way that he's been playing. But I think just the balance of S&D plus control, and then a solid overall Hardpoint performance from Envoy, I would say Envoy still. But yeah, you could go a lot of different ways with the OPTIC arguments.
Who would you say is the X factor?
Scump for sure, right?
Yeah.
So did you originally? Is that your first thought?
That was my X factor player, but you're right. Envoy is the one that is going to be your impact player. I 100% agree. Because I'm going back and forth between this X factor
and impact
and impact.
Slash best impact and X factor.
At this point, I hope my thoughts have contribute something, because now I'm like, did I just script the whole thing?
There's basically 4 words. It's valuable, it's best, it's impact, and X factor. Are kind of like the 4 words to consider. And then there's a balance of all of them.
I'm going the X factor route with this whole thing, because Scump just made too much sense to me.
Yeah, I can see it. At the end of the day, Scump probably has been the most impactful in S&D, and he's been very impactful at times in control.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like he's making the hero plays like Envoy tries to do, but he tries to play it right. And he sets his team up so well, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes Scump that guy. Without him, things could crumble.
Yeah, he's definitely the X factor.
Envoy doesn't have the opportunity to do all these hero plays because Scump is the one who gets things organized and set up right.
Yeah, I'm honestly not even sure if there's ever been a map where Scump is frying and they lose. That's gotta be insanely rare. But yeah, I can see what you're saying there.
That'd be a good set to,
yeah, 100%. So we got 2 teams left. We got Florida and Toronto. So call your shot. Which one do you want to talk about?
Or LA Thieves too, I think.
Oh,
right?
and LA Thieves. You're right.
And LAG.
Oh my word. Yeah, wow, we're really going fast here. Okay. LA Thieves. Let's talk about LA Thieves then.
Yes.
Who is it for you?
Kenny.
For me,
Mine's Kenny.
Yeah, probably.
Kenny's been really good, and even against FaZe, Kenny was still doing great plays, and he seems very confident. He seems like he knows what he's doing, and it's sort of like everybody else not quite catching up with him. Yeah, my vote's Kenny on this one.
You're gonna say Draza.
I have Draza.
Yeah, because he's the X factor.
This team
Because Kenny's consistent.
Yeah.
Most impactful.
Yes. This team is led by the ARs. 100%. Draza,
Yeah.
for sure. Draza and Kenny. Kenny, for sure, has been the most consistent. He's been the most, like, he's Kenny. And he shocked me as main AR, honestly. Like, wow. Phenomenal. But Draza, for sure, the maps you see him go off with Kenny, they're the ones that, like, they're dominating.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like, I would have liked, like looking at Venom and TJ, but it's like, for some reason, the subs on this team just aren't doing anything right now.
I mean, I wonder if they're gonna make another roster change and put Hook back.
That's
in.
another great question.
That would be
'cause
such comedy.
it would
Oh
be
my
interesting.
word.
That's what JCap said for sure.
Yeah, like such comedy. I just don't. I'd be really surprised after how they talked about it that they do. But
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That Draza definitely is kind of that X factor guy. But at the end of the day, Kenny is the most impactful player on this team that affects game in and game out the most.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, though, like, they're built very similar to Florida in the sense they are AR led
Yes.
and that they do rely on the ARs to make the big time plays in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. I would love to see these teams face off again now with these two rosters set up like this.
100%.
They played the major where Florida won, but I would love to see them now again play. So hopefully we can get that again here soon.
I
But,
mean, it just feels like Kenny again is the one who is the glue for this team, and he's the one setting up the team for success, in my opinion. And that's why I think he has that impact.
Well, again, too, I think there's people who think he's a top 3 main AR.
yeah.
Truly,
Yeah.
I don't know if I would say, but I think there's people that
The LAT fans.
yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, I think that's not the most unbelievable thing ever.
No.
No, it is tough though. So I would lean Kenny for sure. It gets tough because I mean, like with the conversation about Draza, but yeah, we'll go with that. So I want to talk about Toronto as well because that's a really interesting convo in the sense of right now who's the most impactful. I mean, at one point it was definitely Insight,
Mhm.
but now has it changed where it's like, could it be Cammy? Could it be Kleenex?
Mhm.
Bance at points when he's frying, they don't lose. If he's frying, it's impossible for them to lose.
Yeah.
So you could kind of argue that in the same way too. So where are you at with this one, Rex?
Again, another team similar to New York FaZe. Like a good team is a team that like everybody has their impact. If you remove it, it's a problem. Which that's the good sign of a good team when everybody is essential. That's what makes these really hard. I personally have Bance as mine.
Really?
I think with the leadership that he brings in, I think he's the glue of this team. I think he's the one who sets his team up well. I had Kleenex at a second place for me.
Very surprising.
Insight seems to
Very
be
interesting.
sort of like Insight's great. Don't get me wrong, and he could be the best player on that team, but he is more, not for lack of he's more of like the selfish player, like he's supposed to be. He's not the one who's concerned.
He's the isolated player.
He's
one
the
that'll play.
isolated player. So like, of course, he have a big impact when he is able to do a whole flank and whatever he's doing. But I think Bance is the one who is sort of the one that controls the pace of things, controls the team, and makes big plays and smart plays.
I mean, he looked really good in some of those like that Garrison control this weekend. He was looking really, really good for sure. Sam, what do you guys have?
I straight up had Insight.
Oh, interesting.
I heavily went off of when Insight joined this team, what happened.
Right.
They
He did impact the
skyrocketed.
team.
He impacted the team quite tremendously. And I think he's in contention for top 2 AR. Truly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so my process with this one was a little bit different than the X Factor, I think. But I just put so much emphasis on when he joined that team, skyrocketed, and then stayed top too. Like, when Sandy joined ROKKR, they were amazing, but then they kind of fell back down. Ultra just remained up there.
Yeah.
And I think
there's
that
an
is
argument that
Insight's
says like when
influence.
Insight came in, it kind of unlocked Cammy and CleanX in the sense and let them be more of who they needed to be.
Yeah.
I had Cammy as the most
Wow, look at us.
impactful player. Again, I love the balance across game modes. I talk about this all the time. People get annoyed that I mention it so much. But I love the balance across the game modes. Cammy is so good there. Not only that, I would say Cammy's probably the most clutch player on this team. He makes so many important plays for the team. And when they need a big 3-piece, he has been there for the big 3-piece for the last stage and a half now. He's been nasty and over and over. I think you just see Cammy it's just incredibly reliable. And you could say that Bance and CleanX put him in a really good position to succeed, but I think it's vice versa in that sense. And that's why they're a great team again. And I agree with you, Rex. Like, of course, if you take any of these pieces out, they all impact the game at some point because that's why they're a top 4 team, top 3 team. But yeah, I've just been incredibly impressed with Cammy and how he plays and just really, really like his play style as a player. He brings a ton of energy too. And I respect him a lot. So I would say Cammy as most impactful. So who else do we have left? We have LAG.
Let's talk
and Florida.
LAG. Let's talk
LAG,
LAG.
baby. All righty. Fire away.
Okay, so for LAG, I mean, I said Silly as my most impactful player.
Yeah.
I think when a big play does go down, I feel like Silly is usually a part of it. Either him or Apathy are. But Apathy has just been usually not doing so great. But then, a few times he will. Silly at least has, I think, a higher level of consistency. And I think, again, he's a person who sets up the team for success when they are succeeding.
Yeah. I said Silly as well. Who'd you say, Sam?
I had App.
Ooh.
I had App.
X Factor.
Yes, the old X Factor argument. And unfortunately, I think it shows that LAG is performing well because I don't think App has been performing very well either.
Yeah. It's been tough.
It's hard. Yeah, this team especially too. It's just weird, when you think about Silly and App as your lead SMGs. Very strange to have them both in the same sentence.
Definitely.
Assault. I think you could argue that Assault has been pretty consistent on this team.
Definitely, for sure.
As the main AR.
I'd have no problem somebody saying Assault as the most impactful because he's definitely, it was either Silly or Assault for me.
Yeah. So you might take that as your main consideration, but yeah, I think with the X Factor argument, for me, it's going to be Apathy.
Yeah, I would just lean on the side that Silly is he's so sacrificial in the sense that he's willing to do and make the play that anyone needs to make to make the right play. Like in that sense, like he'll do whatever it takes to make the right play. And that's kind of where I went with the argument with that sense versus, does Assault find the most kills on this team and on the most consistent basis? Probably, yeah. But I think Silly really goes out of his way to make the most impact map in and map out. And we know how important like he is as a core to that team and keeping it together too. So that's kind of where I leaned with it as a whole. So again, it's tough with teams that aren't winning. It's really tough to say because on one map, this guy looks like the most impactful. Certain maps are like, well, that was tough. Yeah. And then it's going back and forth. So it's a really, really fun conversation.
All right, let's talk about the most difficult one. In my opinion, Florida Mutineers.
Yes.
This one was so hard for me to pick, and I still really don't even know what to say for it.
Because at different points, it's been different guys for sure throughout the year. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it was beyond obviously Awakening. And then now this year, I mean, this most like last 4 weeks, I mean, Skyz has been so good.
Yeah.
And Neptune at points makes the clutch plays that they need to make, but they bring in Havoc, and now
they're winning.
They're playing like a top 4 team again. So maybe he's the glue that they needed, the type of like the right vibes, the right chemistry, the right playmaking ability, the right sacrificial play needed from SMG to pair with Neptune, a guy that understood how Neptune played, and they go from there. So I kind of arguing all 4 sides there of the square. Which side are you on?
I ended up choosing Neptune. I know I just
Rex.
I just talked smack about him, like I don't know.
But he's improved significantly since then.
But since the time I talked about him, he totally proved me wrong.
Thank you.
I don't know if he listened to this and just got pissed and just was like, I'm gonna prove him wrong.
That's what it felt like.
Because he did, because he's been playing like I think just a 360 difference. Like he has the movement, but he's actually making good plays and he's getting these kills and he's setting things up well.
Yeah, he is.
And maybe we can attribute that to Havoc. You know, everything's a question mark. But I think with this team, if there's a glue person that you remove and things could go dire, I think Neptune could be that guy. You remove him and everything's going to go into chaos, I feel like, for that team again.
Sam?
First of all, is it true? Someone said Wake was like 6'2".
What?
Which is why they call him Big Wake.
Nah.
I don't know. Someone said he was like...
Yo, can someone in the comments confirm Big Wake's height? Is he 6'2"?
I saw that on Twitter and like...
He looks like he's like... I first saw him as like 5'10".
That's what I thought too. But someone was like, no, he's like 6 foot something. I'm like,
Really?
No way.
4 or 5 inches difference? That's crazy.
I don't know. But anyways, I had Neptune as well.
Really?
I sure did.
Interesting. For the same reasons?
For me, it was... I don't know if it's so much about the glue, but for me, it's the player.
The playmaking, the clutch.
That's going to be the big playmaker. You know what you're getting out of Awakening. You know what you're getting out of Skyz. Those two. It's been weird though, like you said. It's been weird where they've been off on different days, and so it's kind of weird. But I think Neptune is that guy that once he figured it out, and I think he is. I think we're seeing it. That
part of that probably has to do with better SMG play.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they don't have to get as many kills.
Exactly.
They don't have to stack the leaderboard like the scoreboards like they did before.
So it's where it's I think you could look at it two ways. I think you could say the reason why Florida has even been in it is because of Wake. And
Wake
because
has been
of
carrying them
Skyz.
from the beginning
Exactly.
until recently.
But then it's like, if Florida's going to win a championship, it has to be Neptune that has to step up.
Yeah.
And so I think he is, or I hope this trend continues. And so that's what kind of made me think Neptune was that guy that's going to be the most impactful when it comes to Florida's improved performance.
Yeah, they were definitely one of the three most difficult teams because of how their roles play out.
Mm-hmm.
Where like you could say like from a slaying perspective, Awakening's probably the most important.
Yeah.
But from like the support and playmaking and clutch abilities, and then like lately versus recent, like past, you probably say Neptune. Consistently over the whole season, you probably have to say Skyz.
Mm-hmm.
And from like, I think from like an organizational standpoint and like how they set up and their communication, it's Skyz.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's definitely been like, but Havoc's been so important from a communication side too, where he's he's right now the vocal leader for the team again. So he's by far the loudest.
Mutineers is turning into maybe could end up being one of the top teams because they all are turning into essential pieces for this squad, where if you remove one, things could go bad. Yeah,
I mean, that is interesting. I think maybe that is kind of like a telltale sign of a well-balanced, good team, you know, is like if you can't pinpoint exactly who the most valuable is at all times.
And then,
but yeah, no, I would lean Skyz just because of the balance of slaying, positioning, communication, consistency, and just his role for the squad as a whole. I really, really like how Skyz plays. And again, he had a little slump there in stage 2. Stage 3, he's been lights out. And stage 4, he's been lights out. And now they're winning. And it's kind of come through different avenues in different ways. Sometimes it was S&D, sometimes it was control, sometimes it was hardpoint. And I think as a whole, Skyz is incredibly impactful around the map. And like this weekend, we saw him get those streaks and make big plays. I talked about in the video today. I talked about like Skyz's utilization and how well they use their streaks that they're getting. And like, it's just really impressive. So I would say Skyz as a whole. But, you know, I think it's a pretty good argument for all of them. So with that said, we can finally get into our predictions. I didn't miss anyone, right? That's all 12 teams?
That's all 12.
That's all of them.
I mean, that could have taken longer. I mean, it was decent for all things considered for how big of a conversation that was. So without further ado, I think we can get right into it. Let's talk about the best in the game. Let's go. Okie dokie. Let's go, baby. So we're going through all the matches today, just straight through from beginning to end for the weekend, and talking about who's going to win these things, baby. I mean, obviously we're going to be right. First of all, we do have a little update on. So we've been keeping tally on.
Wait a second. You're going to do this now?
That's why we were counting it. No.
You
This is
gotta
fair.
at least wait until the major, bro.
Whoa.
That's so stupid.
No,
because we were
yo.
gonna do this a while ago, but then we didn't do it when you weren't ahead, and
No.
now all of a sudden you want to do it now that you have the lead.
No,
Sam,
that is
am I
not
wrong
what
about
happened here.
this? Sam, am I
will
wrong
say,
about this?
When we tallied up before, you said, let's not do that yet.
No, but this time I
We're
didn't
doing
know
it.
who
We're
was-
not. It doesn't even make sense to do it now because there's still another major or still a game to be played.
You're not.
You should do it
Let's
after
listen real
this.
quick. Okay, let's listen
weekend.
real quick. All right. So
Listen
what
real
happened
quick.
before the pod?
Oh,
I was like,
God.
oh, we haven't like talked about the point totals in a long time. And I didn't even have any clues who was leading. I said, I want to talk about
Not
it. on the pod. I
even
said this to
true
you.
at all. Not true at all.
No, okay, no.
I
okay.
said this to you before.
I am an intermediary here. Josh
Yeah.
did not, prior to this episode, Josh did not know the totals.
And I said we should talk about it tonight.
When we tallied prior, you did know the total, and you said, let's not do it
But
yet.
that was like 6 weeks ago. It was so early in the year. We had barely even got into it.
I honestly don't care.
We
I
did it.
don't.
We were
It's
going to
just
do it
funny.
right before the major. We are going to do it leading into the
No.
major and talk about it, but then we didn't do it. And now you want to do it now that you're in the lead, and we still have to play this whole weekend before we get to
Oh
our
my
major.
word.
It makes no
Here,
sense
here.
to do this right now.
Let's do this. They already know Josh is in the lead, so let's just say that.
We
the-
can do
the point
it
total.
now. At this point, we can do it. But the
I cannot
people know
believe
now.
you.
The people
No.
know now.
Hey,
Genuinely, I
We're
don't
here.
know what happened.
we're here
before.
now.
Like I said, before this episode, I, with pure, genuine intent, wanted to read whatever the score said, and it just so happened that
That
I'm
is
currently
true.
leading.
That is true. Unless Josh tied
and
him
it's
up
only
like
a
last night.
3-point difference. Okay, so long story short, my word. Okay, so long story short, how we're doing this is you get 1 point for every correct
Yes.
pick. This is not counting brackets.
Yes.
Okay, so any stage, because it's a bracket, we decided not to count these
It's
as
hard.
totals. So this is only for the league matches, and you get 1 point for having the right winner. You get a half point bonus for choosing the right map score. So as a whole, currently as it stands, and every single week, it's been different. Like the least amount of points scored is 4.5. The most points scored in a week is 11. And so there's been quite big varieties in like points per week or whatever.
Mhm. There has been.
But look at how it just crazily came out is that Sam and Rex are tied to 86 and I have 89.5. So, but like to put that into perspective, like there's been plenty of weeks where the difference in points is 4 to 5 between all of us.
Yes.
So it's like the fact that we are literally within 3.5, all three of us, is pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy.
So there you go. That's a correct. It just so happens that I'm
Just
winning.
so
I mean, all
happens.
right. It just so happens. And I'm
my
up by
God.
3.5 points
That was
heading
great.
into week
Whoa, whoa,
3
whoa, whoa.
of stage 4
We're doing
with
this-
with only a few more weeks left of league matches.
Yes. Oh my word. That was great.
So, with that said, we can finally get into our match predictions of the week. Our first
I'm
match
fuming.
of the week
Fuming.
is Toronto
Rex is
versus
Because I've wanted to
LAG.
do that before.
Good news,
I think
guys.
it was
that
like
Rex
stage
was leading
3
in stage.
major.
I think it was stage 2.
Well, maybe it was
was.
stage
I don't
2.
know.
It was going to be like halfway through the year, and before the major, we were going to do it. And that was my
man.
idea behind it. It's like halfway through the year, right before we do our major predictions, we'll go about how we did halfway through the year. But no, we're going to do it randomly here, and we're gonna play, like
Randomly.
literally no reason for it to be here.
Oh my
Like the
God.
major's not even this weekend. Like, all right, I said my piece.
Here, I can actually I'll give you. Well, here, okay. Let's start off with the predictions here. Toronto,
Let's do
LAG.
it, yeah.
While we're at this, Sam, fire away with your predictions. Where are you at with this?
This feels like a good old 3-1 Toronto.
I'm in the same boat as Sam. I'm doing Toronto 3-1.
Toronto hasn't looked as dominant lately. They're still winning, but
Well, they went to a game 4 with Florida, or with Florida went to a game 4 with LAG, and I think Florida's looking really, really good. And LAG as a team is able to take a map off somewhere.
Yeah, that's what's tough. Again, LAG's just been. They're so fun to watch because they've been so competitive. But it's just like,
and they're the team that shouldn't exist, but they do.
Yep.
I know they're fun to watch that way because it's like I really want to root for them and I
Yeah.
really want them to succeed. And it's just, they just cannot overcome it, you know? Like, it's just unfortunate in that sense. But yeah, it's crazy. So update so what I'm seeing, I don't know, I can't tally exactly. I cut it exactly in half from where we currently are. And at that point, I was in last place. Sam was in first with 48.5. Rex was in had 45.5, and I had 45. That was 5 weeks of match or of league play ago.
Wow.
So
I don't remember, but that sounds about right.
yeah, somewhere in there.
Sounds about right.
So there
I
you
remember
go.
Sam
I was in
the
last at that
lead,
point.
and I was in second.
There you go.
Hey, there we go.
So anyway, I'm kind of with you in that sense. I'm gonna go. Oh man, yeah, I'm gonna go 3-0. I'm gonna go 3-0. After they had their defeat to the Mutineers, they came out, they dominated Empire. They came out, they dominated London. So they beat 2 subpar teams. Well, Empire's looking better now, but subpar teams, they're gonna come out here in 3-0 LAG. All right.
I mean, LAG is the one who took a map off the Mutineers, so.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's very possible. But we got Chicago and Seattle up next. Can Seattle show anything? Can they stay competitive?
Let's be 100 here.
On the year, they have very much struggled against OPTIC Gaming.
Yeah.
Very
There
much.
is very little chance. I think Seattle takes a map off. If they do, Gunless is going on his revenge tour.
They're 0-3, 1-9 in map count against OPTIC
I
on
was
the
going to
year.
say, what would they even win against OPTIC?
They've won a raid, hardpoint.
Yeah, only one I think they could win is a hard point.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah. They've been decent in hardpoints recently, for sure. But
it's also
all right,
OPTIC,
thoughts?
so-
This is a 3-0 OPTIC.
I mean, OPTIC's playing the best COD they've played, and they beat them when they weren't playing good COD.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to pick a 3-0. I'm trying to be right here, but I also don't want to be. I want to be contrarian, but I'm going to go 3-0 as well.
If Seattle loses this, they're going to now set the record for the longest losing streak.
Oh, yes. That's exciting.
Yes. So that probably going to happen. So
Must win.
10 games is the current tie between ROKKR and Search.
That's so crazy.
weird.
For that ROKKR went on that last year.
I know.
After their good year, but
It's just weird to think like ROKKR was LAG last year.
or Seattle. Oh,
Sorry.
you mean the squad though?
The squad.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
New York and London's up next. Some very juicy matchups to start off this
Well,
this week.
you got Hydra playing against Afro, and you know they played against each other all the time.
very
I'm sure, in
fun.
challengers. So like,
I like the storyline pull
So
there.
these
you have a
guys
sick-
might not be so scared of Hydra. They know what to expect of him because they've played with him.
And you have a sick Hydra. You have
He might be healed by now, but
You have a high ping Asim that changed anything
which
to
didn't
do.
stop New York at all.
It didn't stop New York at all.
So
I will say though, I think that means that they're going to lose a map. I think it's very possible versus
I'm
London.
in the same boat. I'm going NYSL 3-1. I think New York's probably going to lose the S&D.
man, I mean, yeah, no. London's been trash in S&D. If anything, they're going to lose a control, maybe? This is a 3-0. I'm going 3 straight 3-0s.
Wow,
NYSL
look at
3-0
you.
as well, boys. This is going to be a fast weekend. If we get 3 straight 3-0s start off the weekend, that'd be absolutely insane. This is a horrible matchup for London at this point right now. I mean, I could see them taking a map, but it's just hard to see anything else. London's got 3-0 by the Mutineers. They got 3-0 by the Ultra. They lost game 5 to the Empire so far this stage. They got 3-0 by the Thieves before that.
Ravens S&D is really bad. Holy cow.
It's been awful.
It's been terrible.
It's been awful. They only beat the ROKKR. They're on a huge losing streak in S&D outside of their one win against the ROKKR.
7-23.
Their last S&D win besides that ROKKR one came against New York when they beat them.
Look at that.
So there you go. Yeah, they're getting 3-0'd. All right, LATV, Minnesota. This is a fun one.
This is a fun one. I like this one.
This could be the bone that breaks Tej's back here in LA Thieves. If Minnesota wins this heavily,
Ooh, that's gonna be.
if you're LA Thieves,
That's rough.
That's rough. And I think I'd have to pull it up real quick, but like this weekend went about as ideal as it could possibly go for the ROKKR
Mhm.
and their COD champs insurance,
Mhm.
because basically everyone was losing and ROKKR ended up winning.
Mhm.
So hey, there's a positive for you ROKKR fans out there. Thoughts?
And
I mean, this is going to be a battle. Like these teams are, I feel like they're really are going to be battling against each other because like they need to make a name of like whoever wins this is the one that you're going to be like they might be like the 5th or 6th best, and the other one is going to be in that garbage pile almost.
Yeah.
So like it's like a battle of don't be garbage team. Like slightly above middle of the pack is the winner of this one. Because of that, I think I'm gonna go LA Thieves.
I feel like ROKKR need to put them away before a game 5.
Mm-hmm.
Man, yeah, this is tough. It's definitely. I mean, how do you feel about the LAT team at this point? Like,
I mean, they're still TJ doesn't seem to be that guy. But I mean, what do we see? We watched them play FaZe.
Paris and FaZe. So
I think
it's
they
hard
lost
to learn a
both.
lot from those matchups, and they lost both though, and they lost to Legion.
They
The
truly
big one telling one's the Legion one. The Legion looks better.
they truly screwed themselves over when replacing TJ with Hook when they were on the up and up. I mean, they just put like a
Throw
huge,
off vibes for all of stage 3.
huge thorn on their side. Oh, I think Minnesota can do this.
Okay.
I'm doing it. I'm putting my stick in the ground. I think Minnesota need to put them away before game 5. And so I'm going to go Minnesota 3-1.
Yeah, I am really going on both sides here. It's hard for me to play the series out because, man, I'm still not exactly sure which maps Minnesota feels really confident in with Major Maniac in this lineup. You know, they've looked pretty. I'd imagine we see a lot of raid because both these teams like raid quite a bit. At least it seems that way.
Yeah.
And
Seems
so
like
I'd
every
imagine we
team
see a lot
does
of raid. In that sense, I honestly feel more confident with Minnesota as well. But oh man, I'm just going back and forth. I'm going to go Minnesota 3-2. I don't think either of these teams right now are going to be a pretty good S&D team. I mean,
That is true.
you
It's
know,
not like
I mean,
the worst in the
obviously, you
world.
know, Thieves lost to Legion, they lost to FaZe, and they lost both of them on raid. So maybe you don't see raid. It's going to be tough to say, but Rex, where you at with it?
It's tough. I'm really looking at TJ and what is he going to show us?
But we see a standoff in this series, I bet.
I'll stick with my LA Thieves pick. I'll pick LA Thieves 3-2, but I am not confident in that.
Yeah, this is a really fun matchup. Just because there's so many unknowns. This is the one I'm looking forward to the most so far at this point, just because it's going to be really competitive for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be fun, man. I'll be interested. Drop your comments down below to see what you guys got for this one. All you out there, because that's gonna be fun, man. LAG London is up next on the board, and you know, all these matchups. I mean, you're pulling for hopes and dreams at this point for a champ's berth. Again, the worst case scenario for all these teams is that the Mutineers are looking better, the ROKKR are looking better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a pretty solid top 8 right now, and the LA Thieves looks like the only vulnerable team, but they're still 90 points ahead of LAG. So it's like the ROKKR may be a little bit vulnerable, but they're 70 points ahead of LAG. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But thoughts on this matchup as a whole? Where are you at with it, Sam?
I think this is going to be a London win. Last time they played, it was 3-0, given that was stage 2. So a lot has changed, obviously, with the London roster.
Yeah, tons changed.
LAG, of course, they're the one team that you're just not confident in winning any game at this point, besides maybe Seattle.
And London's played they played Empire. They got 3-0'd by Mutineers. They got 3-0'd by Ultra.
And there is a lot of London. I have a lot of hopes for Afro too. I think we can see.
Could this be the series where Afro starts to fry?
It could, honestly. So, man, I've got
Very possible. Yeah, I'm waiting in London as well.
I've got so many 3-1s, but 3-2 on this one would not be a London win, don't you think? It'd be an LAG win 3-2.
You have to favor LAG 3-2 if they're going to go game 5.
I'm going to do another 3-1.
That is the question: is London just this bad at S&D? But again, they went round 11 on Moscow with Ultra.
Yeah.
They went 6-3 with Mutineers. They went round 11 with Empire on Express.
So maybe
So
just
they're right there.
a couple strings of bad luck.
They're right there. Yeah, I'm going to go London. I'm going to go London 3-1. I'm going to take it 3-1 and play it really close. Rex, where you at with it?
LAG is just that team. Like LAG lacks star power. That's what I think is the difference between them and like
The
every other
outward
team
slaying.
has something. LAG just has no star power.
It's
But-
the guy that pops the 3-piece when all hope looks lost on the hill.
Yep, and they don't have that. But
No.
they have a level of consistency with each other. I'll go London as well. I'll
Okay.
do London 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
just
thing.
star power
LAG's
potential. That's basically it.
the
LAG
X
could
factor
take
for
it
me
as
is-
being a wall, but
LAG beat the Mutineers on Garrison Control 3-0. And that was
Mhm.
like a whoa, like what am I watching here? Like this is pretty crazy. So like, and London has I think they've been playing quite a bit of Garrison Control lately. Yeah, they played it against Ultra. They played it against Empire and they won that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see it. Man, wow. LAG could win this. It's going to be really, really close. I'm honestly considering changing to LAG 3-2. I'm going to go LAG. I'm tilting. I'm tilting.
He's tilting.
I'm tilting. I'm going to go LAG 3-2 because I just have more faith in them with the S&Ds and then the control because they look pretty dang good on it. On the Garrison. It depends what map we end up seeing. But they've looked, I don't know. Raid's not the worst at either. So if they veto checkmate, they at least have a pretty good chance either way. So I like my odds. I'm going to go LAG 3-2. All right,
I like your
Minnesota,
odds, too.
Atlanta. Does Atlanta show any crack in the armor? They have been absolutely unreal.
It almost seems stupid to not do a 3-0
The
versus
only map they've lost is the first time they played standoff, and it was
versus
against
Paris.
Legion.
Yeah.
And Legion's on like a pretty good streak here of S&D win percentages. So it's like,
I think
oh man,
at this point it's almost criminal to not have a 3-0 versus teams that are not in the top 4 right now.
yeah.
are you gonna go 3-0?
3-0.
Atlanta 3-0 for me as well because it's Atlanta.
I'll give Atlanta 3-1. I'll give them a 3-1 because I actually think Minnesota's a pretty good team, at least like competitive. And again, at this point, now that Atlanta is 4-0, they've locked up the number 1 seed, right? Yeah, because they've already locked up the number 1 seed in this group, if I remember right. Because tiebreakers wise, oh yeah, they've locked it up. It's over.
Yeah.
So, and well, actually, wait a second. Because the ROKKR, if they beat LA Thieves, if they beat FaZe too, they would have the number 1 seed. So, FaZe is 3-0ing them.
With that said,
FaZe is 3-0. If I was going to argue that ATL is going to take some chances here and really try some interesting things, but if this match matters and I have Minnesota beating LA Thieves, this match is actually a group winning match. Therefore, Atlanta is going to try.
therefore.
So Florida Dallas is up next. Another really fun one with both teams. Very fun one.
This is a super interesting one. So Florida beats Ultra 3-2. Dallas gets 3-0'd by Ultra. Florida and Dallas both get 3-2'd by New York.
Yep. I mean, these are the inverse teams almost in a sense where the 2 worst players right now are the ARs for Dallas
Mhm.
and the opposite's true for Florida. Obviously worse is, relative. But okay. So yeah, thoughts on this one? Rex, fire away. Dallas, Florida.
My gut reaction is Florida. I think they are on the ups, and I think they are going to be a contending team for champs. And I think if they keep playing as well as they are with the roster they have, I think they could take this 3-2.
Yeah, I think one thing to look at is like Florida right now, it seems like they've got the pieces together right now. Dallas is still trying to find those pieces.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Right-
Depends
right
what
now,
kind of
like-
Vivid we get as well, too.
for sure.
Yeah. Right now, you got Shotzi and you got Vivid potentially, being those guys that are going to hold it up. Ilya again, it's just Not a lot of confidence there. Crim. I think this is going to be a Florida. I think this is going to be a 3-1 Florida.
3-1 would make the most sense.
The star power favors Florida.
A little, yeah. The playmaking ability right now favors Florida as well. It is really tough though, because you could make an argument, and we've seen Empire be so clutch this year. And the S&D performances were pretty nice. They had some really nice rounds there, and they lose a standoff to subliners, and again, still a little bit of an X factor with standoff in the rotation. And that was Empire's second time playing standoff in a match. So that's tough. I definitely lean Florida as well, but a game 5 would get really, really interesting. And I could easily see Dallas winning a game 5, especially with how well Vivid played in the last series. So at this point, Florida hasn't shown us any reason to not believe in them after their win against Ultra. They went toe to toe with the subliners. They beat the subliners on an Apocalypse hardpoint. That was really impressive. They beat them on a raid control. Very impressive. And so at this point, you'd have to favor Florida with the control. I would lean Florida in the hard points. And so at that point, I think I need to go with 3-1 and hedge my bets. But, Vivid's the X factor in this specific matchup. And if there is an incline of impressive play, it's going to be from Vivid. So I'm excited to see it. Overall, I'm going 4-3-1. All right, Seattle Paris. Yes, sir. Can Seattle end the streak?
I know.
Can Seattle end it here?
Can Seattle lose? There's no way they lose.
This is a
more than 11
revenge
times.
match for a classic. Where you at with it?
Seattle has to figure it out at some point.
It's overdue.
This is
type
a
argument.
typical, this is a typical Sam pick. You're going Seattle, aren't you?
I'm going
Sam?
Seattle. Absolutely going
course you are.
Seattle.
Wait, Rex, are you for sure going Paris?
I'm going to go Paris.
Okay. What's the argument there for you then?
I want to hear Sam's argument first.
I mean, so far, Surge have played Thieves, FaZe, ROKKR. They took Thieves 3-2. They got 3-0'd by FaZe. They beat they lost to the ROKKR 3-1, but they took the Moscow hardpoint off of them. The Garrison again, another 3-2 loss in a control for them. Shocker. And the checkmate was really, really close and competitive as a whole throughout the map. This could easily go either way. Obviously, the Legion, on the other hand, you're coming off of, they played 4 of their matches so far. 3-1 v FaZe loss, ROKKR 3-1 loss, beat LA Thieves 3-1, OPTIC 3-1 loss. So they took a map off every team they played. Paris should win this series.
They should. But but
I'm digging Paris 3-1.
Your bones are telling you something different, Sam?
No, I'm taking Paris 3-2.
I'm taking Seattle 3-2.
Wow.
Seattle is going to have to win the hardpoint.
Both hard points.
Both hardpoints and an S&D. They're not winning the control. They're losing an S&D.
They could win an S&D.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
winnable
going,
for Seattle, for sure.
Yeah. 3-2 Seattle.
I'm going
Rex?
Paris 3-1. Seattle
different
might
picks.
take one of the hard points, but I think the control and S&Ds are going to go Paris's way, and then Paris will get, the last hard point.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. All right, Toronto, New York, obviously the matchup of the weekend here.
My word.
This is really, really fun. And it's going to decide the group more than likely, depending on what happens with Florida, of course. To be fair, Florida could just make that happen too. But I don't know. Where you at with this one, man? Obviously, do you think the Ultra loss to Florida was a little fluky?
Fluky.
Where you at with it?
Man. Where I'm at with it. This is where I'm at with it.
At this point, you'd hope, you'd expect both these teams to be firing in all cylinders.
Yes.
Right before these matches. It's going to be a really, really fun one.
It's going to be a close game 5.
For sure.
New York is taking this 3-2.
Here's the thing with that. I'm gonna take New York because you always underestimate New York and they always prove you wrong. New York's S&D is what I don't trust against Toronto. If it goes to game 5, I'm scared.
Yeah.
My hope is that we could finish it out with a 3-1. So that's what I'm putting as my guess. Because I think if it goes to a game 5, I think Toronto will probably take it.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, at least it feels like New York and Toronto have very similar maps. They don't really would rather not play. I'll be interested to see what if we get Miami or standoff, which one we're probably going to get one of them. I'd be interested to see which one we end up getting. Because last time they played, it's been a minute since they played, which was at the major in stage 2 was the last time they played, which is crazy considering how good both these teams have been since then.
Mm-hmm.
But Toronto's just had so many series against FaZe during that time, it's just crazy. So that's why this match is 100% the most exciting match of the whole weekend. I'm leaning Toronto, man. I'm leaning Toronto. But doubting New York has not been going well for me this year, and that's why I'm scared. But I think this is Toronto's time. I'm going to take Toronto 3-2 in a really close series, and it's going to create for an absolute mess inside of Group B. Both these teams are insanely good, and it could go either way depending on matchups and depending on what maps they get. Without knowing the maps, it's hard to pick the series. You're just looking at considering how long it's been since they've played each other. So that's why I'm going with it. Obviously, if you look at Toronto's last few matches, they lost 3-2 to Florida. That's the, of course, then New York ends up beating Florida 3-2.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's that's not decisive either way. And then New York goes 3-2 against Empire and Ultra 3-0 to Empire. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm going to give the edge to Toronto because of the S&Ds. I just like the play, the preparation that Toronto's going to have, I think, going into it. So there you go. LATV Chicago, last match of our evening here.
Easy 3-1, Chicago.
3-1.
That's what I have as well. Chicago 3-1. Chicago seems to be now finally on the upswing.
This would be very Chicago them to lose this.
LA
I was going to say
Thieves
this
has just
this
been
could
LA
be just a
Thieves all
loss.
year. So
I have less confidence in LA Thieves more than I have less confidence.
yep,
You know what
exactly,
I mean?
totally, exactly.
It sounded so dumb, but it's
No,
more
I'm
of,
with you 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's what has LA Thieves really showed us at this point to make us believe that they can win this type of match? We haven't seen it, obviously, not since their insane run in the stage. So that's what gets me worried. Again, I think you have to take Chicago, but I'm a little bit more hesitant. I'm actually going to go Chicago 3-2 and just give Toronto and give LA Thieves that extra map there. It comes down to where is Chicago at with the S&Ds right now? Chicago, have they looked unbeatable? No, definitely not. And losing a raid 3-1, a raid control to the Legion, not inspiring after coming off a 3-0 against FaZe. So that's why I'm going to play a little bit closer with the 3-2 there. So there it is, boys. That was our predictions for the weekend. Obviously, a complete perfect bracket from one of us. And with that said, let's go right into our intelligent or irrelevant and talk about this spicy one. Let's go.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Alrighty, Sam, where are we at with this one? What are your thoughts here? What do you got?
Here we go. 439 votes.
Ooh, lots of votes.
That's a lot of votes. Who is the best main AR out of these 4?
Okay.
Guys, Formal, Octane, Crim.
Interesting.
Interesting one.
Very interesting. So who do you think the people are going to say? I mean, based off most recent performances, in my head, this is kind of inspired from my video from today. I had Skyz as the highest of those 4. Rex, who do you think people are going to say?
They're going to say Formal.
You're going to take the optic bias and just run with it?
It's going to be Formal, I think.
That's the hard thing is to combat is how heavy is the optic biased.
It's probably going to be Formal, isn't it?
With these players,
it's either Formal or Skyz.
If you put Arcides in there, maybe it changes. Put Clay in there, maybe it changes. But these players have been kind of flying under the radar. Formal's gonna take it.
Okay, Sam.
I think it's gonna be Formal, but I would say Skyz.
Okay.
I would
All
say
right, so let's see what the
Skyz,
people have to
personally.
say.
I will vote Crim because I don't think he's gonna be. Yeah, okay. 50% Formal,
Dang.
28% Skyz,
Wow.
19% Octane, and 3% Crim.
Oh,
Wow,
dang.
people are
Tough.
that down on Crim.
I know.
I mean, he
yeah.
hasn't been playing great. It's
He
definitely not
hasn't been
been.
playing that bad though. But
Yeah.
all right.
So here we go.
Wow.
Evo Hordes comments Formal because of his leadership ability and good overall gun skill and communication. Rudy Patootie says if anyone votes Octane, then they are delusional. Everyone says how good he is and talks about his stats, but forgets to mention he was on the worst team 2 years in a row.
Okay.
Not wrong.
OZ Freak Show. I'd say Formal because of his gunny, but also the comms and IGL dynamic he adds to OPTIC. Sky is definitely hitting form now. I think Octane would do better with a different team behind him. Crim is the GOAT, but this year, sadly, I'd say he's an anchor for Empire.
Okay. Interesting.
And then Hugh Breeze Plays says you don't even have
Hubris.
the best hubris. You don't even have the best AR in the game listed, and he has a picture of Parasite and a do-rag.
Amen. Amen. Well, that's fair. I mean, that's absolutely fair. So I don't blame you there. That's
Yeah.
definitely true.
But I think that was par for course, and we have something going on here.
So, Sam, intelligent
Yes.
or relevant?
I'm gonna say in between because
Okay.
because
Oh.
bearing in mind the OPTIC, fans, Skyz was second, Crim was last. I'll give him the intelligent with the side note of Formal should be 50%. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
So,
Have we ever given we always say intelligent.
We've given one irrelevant.
I feel like
We have given one
we
irrelevant.
gotta
was
be
irrelevant.
More, we gotta be more passionate about our
Whoa,
relevance.
whoa.
Because
I
I
haven't
have
got
a
to my
feeling-
point yet.
Okay,
That's
all right.
irrelevant. Skyz is better than
Alright.
Formal right now.
Yeah.
He's better than
Facts.
Formal right now.
He is.
No, he
If
is.
OPTIC had, again, you build your team around Skyz, like you don't want to like say,
Mhm.
oh, would I rather have Skyz than Formal?
Yeah.
If you're building a team right now to win, you're
Yeah.
picking Skyz over Formal.
I guess I was going more of like the 1, 2, 3, 4. I would switch 1 and 2, but then that like they had 3, 4, right? They just need to
Formal's on the
switch
come
1,
up
2.
again.
Yes.
So I mean, like, but like up until literally like this match against
Mhm.
Paris, it hasn't been great for Formal. It's been pretty
True.
freaking bad.
No, that is true.
But yeah, I guess if people are watching on YouTube, they're probably like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, this is some weird
I'm holding
stuff.
a balloon, guys.
Yep.
So recently it was my birthday, and I got a balloon, and
Happy
so
birthday.
it has helium in it. So I thought,
Yes.
why not?
Oh.
Why not take
gonna be
advantage of this?
interesting.
So, I've got to ask, guys.
You go higher.
I've got to ask, guys, what's going on?
This is weird.
And Rex, what are you watching around right now?
I already wore off.
Wow.
Wait,
Wow.
we didn't decide if he was
Wow.
intelligent or irrelevant.
Oh no! I mean, again, that was irrelevant.
Fine, irrelevant. Fine.
100% irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
Wow,
Well,
that
I
was,
think it was intelligent. No, I'm
Wow.
kidding.
Oh my gosh. We are all over the place today.
I'm kidding. Okay,
But,
what am I watching?
Yeah, what are you watching right now?
I'm rewatching Big Mouth for the second time.
Big Mouth, huh?
Yes, good. It's a good show. Good show. All about growing up and hormones and puberty. And what else am I watching? That's all I can think of right now.
Nice, Sam. What are you watching?
I'm watching this YouTube channel, and they're the ones that did this like blew up, but the
Yeah, blew up. Oh my word.
Gosh,
Yo,
this is-
this is so crazy.
I can't even focus right now. It sounds so.
YouTube.
How the fuck you doing? Nate Shot here.
What's going on? It's your boy.
Oh my goodness! Oh wow! I just like breathe once, and it's just
You
like
okay?
right back to it. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, you're
I'm
good. It was the one that blew up that was like faking
Being a psychopath or whatever.
Being a psychopath.
Being crazy.
Yeah, being crazy.
Oh, wait, that
Yeah.
YouTube video?
Yeah.
Oh, my word, I got recommended that too.
And they have like a whole bunch of like stuff about like these like murderers.
Yeah.
And they go through like their like interrogation and stuff. Super interesting. That's what I'm watching.
Dang.
I've heard
Highly
that's
recommend.
super good.
It is. I would highly recommend.
Like people were mad, like, why am I getting recommended this? But then everyone watched it and they're like, all
This is
right,
actually
pretty
incredible.
good. I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch them all.
Yes.
That's pretty sick. That's so weird. I got recommended that too, but yeah, no, what I've been watching, Bad Batch still.
Yep.
Besides that, nothing too else. Logan Paul Mayweather, watch that. That was sick. That was a ton of fun. And the USA v Mexico match on last night was unreal. So
I heard that.
was sick as well. So I've been watching that, but
Dude,
That's
there's
gonna do
this
it.
show that came out. It's like this deer kid. Like I think it's
Oh,
new
Sweet
on
Tooth?
Yeah, Sweet Tooth. I watched the
Yeah.
first episode like
Was it
late
pretty
at
good?
night. I was like, what is this? And I'm like, yeah, I honestly liked the first episode. I was intrigued and I was like, I'm gonna watch another one. Oh, also Ragnarok on Netflix. I think it's a Swedish show.
the Viking show.
I mean, it's about like Thor. It's not back in Viking times. It's like
Oh, really?
I don't
I
know.
thought it was just about Vikings.
no, it's called Ragnarok, and it's like this kid who like is now gonna be Thor or whatever, and a bunch of magic stuff. But its second season just came out, and I watched the first season, but it's in Swedish. But I really like it.
Oh, nice.
How many
dude.
Ragnarok movies are there?
Probably a lot. I mean,
Ragnarok,
obviously Thor, yeah.
Ragnarok.
But that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
But that's gonna do it for the podcast today.
Oh my gosh.
Don't mind me.
Josh is going to inhale some more helium here.
So if you guys liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, share if you guys really enjoyed it. But this has been the Best of 3 Call of Duty podcast. I'm Josh. SalvationsElite to my right is Bash _3 to our five right per usual is Rex, Shady Nero, and guys, we will see ya next time. We out.